The news from ITN.
The poisoned ship nobody wants is now off Plymouth. The red arrows keep flying despite the German tragedy. Scientists find new vaccine to save the dying seals. And don't stop the carnival, Notting Hill's trouble-free. Good evening. A ship laden with 2,000 tons of poisonous waste is anchored off the Devon coast tonight. The government's called an urgent meeting tomorrow about the Karen B. She's carrying waste from Italy, which had been dumped in Nigeria. It was then shipped to Spain, but left there last week. One British firm has already offered to inspect the waste to see if it can be handled.
The ship that nobody wants is at anchor 20 miles off Plymouth tonight. The Karen B is reportedly carrying over 2,000 tons of deadly chemical waste. One British port's already refused her permission to dock. The Devon Coast Guard say they've received no official contact yet. So no one's sure what the Karen B's next move will be. When we tried to contact her earlier, our call was refused.
Independent Television News in London.
Yeah, I'm afraid he's not accepting any calls to the media at all.
Friends of the Earth, who inspected the waste at a dump in Nigeria, claim it includes highly inflammable and corrosive liquids and cancer-causing chemicals.
The British government, which is partly to blame, must tell the Italians to take this waste back to Italy, to a naval port, where it can be safely unpacked, each drum can be tested, the waste can then be stored safely, pending the development in Italy of the proper disposal facilities.
And tonight, the Environment Minister, Virginia Bottomley, told ITN it's in nobody's interest to have footloose cargoes of dangerous waste drifting the seas of the world. With ministers meeting tomorrow, pressure is growing on the Italian government to take back their waste and dispose of it themselves.
Britain's Red Arrows air display team has been cleared to carry on flying this summer despite the air stunt disaster in West Germany. The West Germans have now banned military air shows.
The crash site eerily quiet today, forensic scientists yet to disturb the evidence of this dreadful disaster. Haunting remnants here of the Sunday afternoon outing that ended in horror. They have convened a board of officers here to carry out a preliminary inquiry into this crash, but the unofficial but widely held view is that pilot error was to blame. Opponents of the air show, out with their placards yesterday, had long feared such an accident as this. The American ambassador and the West German defense minister joined, they said, in sorrow, faced the press.
We must now work together to improve safety at these air shows.
The defense minister, though, announced a ban on future shows.
My first decision is to cancel the air show, the end of September, of the Luftwaffe in Lechfeld.
In the hospitals, meanwhile, they continue to treat the burned, many still critically ill. And at the airbase, they work to trace the missing and to identify some of the dead. Dead remembered tonight in chapels around the country. Vernon Mann, ITN, West Germany.
This amateur video of the Frecce Tricolore performing at RAF Fairford shows quite clearly what should have happened during the fatal display in Germany yesterday, and there can now be no doubt that it was a matter of bad timing. The single plane reaches the intersection from the left more than 2 seconds after the two formations have passed through, and all the planes pull up to reform at 10,000 feet. In slow motion, it can be seen that the safety margins are generous. The runway separates the two formations, the singleton comes in later and higher at the intersection. Yesterday, the single plane arrived at the same time and height. Despite the German ban, next weekend sees the start of Britain's biggest air show at Farnborough, before new safety laws are introduced here. By next January, the Civil Aviation Authority will take overall control of all large British air shows. They'll ensure that all pilots participating in them are acceptably qualified for display work, and they'll check out historic aircraft and their aircrews, and they'll also ensure that the show organisers comply with spectator safety standards.
I think that these sort of shows can be conducted in a manner which reduces the danger to the public to an absolute minimum. Clearly, when airplanes fly over the public, the world is never going to be 100% safe, but it can, I think, be acceptably safe.